Hey, Love Your Life family. Hope you all are doing well today. It's your sis, Crystal. I'm so excited about today's episode because it talks about empowering men, a much needed ongoing conversation that is needed on a consistent basis. I had the honor of sitting with my husband and two of his amazing brothers, Chris and Julian. And it was a very in-depth conversation and really dealing with the mental health and wellness of men, the complexities around leadership as fathers, as husbands, and just being a man and dealing with mental health. And so I encourage you today to grab your pens, your paper, take some notes, and gather some tools from their stories and their journeys and identify where is this going to be applicable in your life. So I hope you've come ready to learn. Remember, this is for educational purposes only. If you're needing any additional help to assist you on your journey, I encourage you to reach out to your primary care physician, mental health therapist, or a licensed counselor. All right, let's grow, let's learn.
Yeah, we came a long way, and that's what the song say. And I can do all things, I can do all things, yeah, I can do all things.
Hey, Love Your Life family. Welcome back to another Loving Your Life discussion. This is Sis Crystal.
What's going on, fam? It's your brother Andre. We're excited to be with you today. We have some very special guests. I've been knowing these young brothers all my life. So we're excited to join you today, delve into some deep discussions.
Yes, indeed. We're going to be talking about men empowerment. I don't know if any of y'all know, but it is Men's Health and Wellness Awareness Month. So it's definitely a crucial time to celebrate and honor our men. There's not enough of it going on. And so here at Love Your Life, we're going to handle that today.
That's right, girl. You need to honor me. So we're excited.
So he's trying to get in trouble.
Yeah. But it's going to be an exciting time. You know, we're definitely excited. So I want to introduce our guests. I have Brother Chris with us and Brother Julian. Like I said, I've known these young brothers all my life, and the reason why they're my biological brothers. So I'm excited to have them on the show today, really digging into men empowerment. We're going to touch on some issues that is so important as we celebrate Men's Health and Wellness Empowerment Month.
Most definitely. Now, the reason, again, just to reemphasize, it's a conversation that's not talked about enough. And as a woman, I'm encouraging you sisters out there to love on your men, encourage them, create an environment for them to be vulnerable, naked and unashamed about all issues and not throwing it back in their face, using it or weaponizing them with those moments that they need to just be real. And so for those sisters that are out there doing that, kudos to you. Virtual high five, much love to you. And for us sisters, take note, educate yourself on why it is such a need. And so I definitely want to kick off this discussion today, just giving you all the opportunity to share your upbringing.
Yeah, so but before we get in that, babe, just talk with us. Let's start with Chris. Introduce yourself, brother. Tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll go from you to Julian.
What's going on, everybody? I appreciate y'all having me. Definitely enjoy following the podcast, seeing what y'all are talking about. It's always something good, so I appreciate that. Chris. I was the baby to Julian was born, but young. I was the youngest, but now just living out here, man, enjoying life, loving my family, loving just being engaged, being not engaged to be married, but being engaged with my family and just enjoying all that we do, spending time together, and just, learning and learning from each other. So for me, biggest piece is just trying to stay connected, figure out kind of how do I best serve my fam and make sure we're doing the right things and making sure we're doing what we need to do.
Awesome. Okay. Perfect. All right, brother. Julian, you up. Kind of tell us a little bit about you and just introduce yourself, brother.
Appreciate it. First of all, thank y'all for having me. Definitely follow the podcast, and I'm excited to be here. Everybody that's watching or listening, this is my first time, so if I mess up, take it with love. But yeah, as Chris stated, I'm the baby, the spoiled one of the family. I'm in a transition period, kind of. I just got up and really just moved to Arizona less than a year ago. So I'm just trying to learn, live, and reconnect with family. It's always been love there, but now we see each other more. So it's just trying to learn and re-engage with family, man.
How does he treating you, bro? This heat out here, how's it treating you, man?
Oh, it's hot. It's definitely different than South Carolina. Like it's funny because real quick, before I first got here, I was like, man, this dry heat. I'm dealing with humidity in South Carolina. Now everybody talking about, you dealing with dry heat? I said, man, yeah, you live here. It ain't heat is heat. Like,
yeah. For sure. So those who may not know, our listeners and viewers, today is 117 degrees. We're in the middle of a heat wave. It's scheduled to be up to 120. So yes, it is hot. So let's jump right in it. I want to kind of talk about, before we kind of dig into, some specific topics regarding, men empowerment. I want to kind of talk about our upbringing a little bit. So we are from the South, born South Carolina. Our father was in the military. We moved around a lot. One of the things that's kind of unique for Julian, he had, and I don't want to speak for you, but I'm just from my lens, a different experience, meaning we grew up moving around the United States. Our father retired and then they moved back to South Carolina. And so Julian was raised primarily in South Carolina, whereas Chris and our older brother, Matt, and myself, we were moving every about 4 years. But I find myself now really reflecting on my upbringing, thinking about, some of my successes, things that I do well, but for me, even some of the things that I struggle in. And I find myself really reflecting on my upbringing and trying to be aware of what role that played in the things that I do well, but even some things that I need to continue to work on. And that's not to use our upbringing as an excuse. We had parents that loved us, supported us, sacrificed to the bone for us, loving parents. But just like any family, we had our issues. And then as you grow up, you have to make your life what it's going to be. And so for me, I find myself really reflecting on our upbringing and trying to make sure I'm kind of aware of what role that has played or is playing in my life today. When you think about, your upbringing, I want you to kind of share a little bit about from your perspective and how it relates to you now. Let's start with you, Julian. What would you share about your upbringing and what role it plays in your life today?
Definitely, y'all know from firsthand, parents didn't play that, so very memorable, you know what I mean? So it's always yes, ma'am, no, sir, always treat people kind and courteous, and really, man, it's kind of different because hearing stuff y'all went through, I kind of learned. So a lot of stuff wasn't really new to me, from talking to y'all and stuff our parents told us that they went through with y'all. So for me, like, it was kind of like, okay, I would do this, but I know it worked out for Chris did this and it didn't really work out, or it did work out. So I kind of, or Dre, so it kind of, I ain't gonna say it made it easier, but my road was kind of smooth because I had y'all for guidance.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about because I was like an angel, and the halo was on my head from the moment I came. So let me stop. It's interesting because like you mentioned, Drake, having that perspective of things that you do well, things you need to work on, and our upbringing. And I think that you get to a point you start thinking about those things, and hopefully you start reflecting on those things. And for me, moving every 4 years, I look back on it and I appreciate that a lot because it forces you to adapt early, because you can't really get comfortable, because the moment you get comfortable, now you're moving again. So for me, I really enjoy that. This is probably, since I've been an adult, this is by far the longest I've been in one place, and we've been here for 9 years. And so this is kind of, while I like it, because I'm tired of moving, I'm getting a little older, and I don't really want to be moving a lot no more. It has definitely made me kind of reflect on things and really appreciate stability, first of all. And it wasn't like we didn't have stability when we were moving, but the idea you just moving, period, it starts wearing on you. So as I think back of us moving as a family from place to place to place to place, all that stuff, I enjoyed it because for me, I take from it that I'm able to, I pride myself on being able to adapt in whatever situation I'm in, just because we had to coming up.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think when I look at our upbringing, for me, that is for sure a focal point. I appreciate, because we had to learn to, live amongst different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
We were raised in, depending on where we moved to, people of all ethnic backgrounds, very culturally diverse cities and states, depending on where we live. And so I appreciate that now. I know that is a huge plus in my professional career, because I was more comfortable working in side-by-side people who didn't look like me, who didn't share my same beliefs or cultural background, because we had to deal with that growing up, that is a huge plus. I'm definitely thankful for that. One of the things I think for me, when I look at, especially as we talk about men's health and empowerment, one of the areas though that I had to really work on is being vulnerable. And this is for me, our experience is going to be different. But when I say vulnerable, being able to communicate my vulnerabilities. So my wife and I, obviously, we've been married 19 years. And I had to learn to be vulnerable and articulate that with my wife. And so whether it would be finances, fears, concerns, worries, and our father and mom, they talk to us, but I don't think I personally didn't see it a lot. And so I had to learn, because that was a struggle for me, being vulnerable. And I want to encourage, you brothers, as well as our listeners and viewers, as we talk about men's health and wellness and empowerment, as men, we need to make sure that we can communicate effectively with our loved ones and be vulnerable enough to say, I'm scared, I don't know, and not take it as a form of weakness and thereby clam up or don't say anything,
Yeah, I think to that point, and I'm just gonna go straight to it. I feel like, in my own opinion, if you are, I had to learn this. Let me be honest. I didn't just come to this conclusion. But some of us men are fearful to be vulnerable, because you can't be vulnerable with everybody. If you out there doing stuff you can't be vulnerable with everybody. You better find you a good one that you can be vulnerable with, a good woman that you can be vulnerable with. And that don't have to be just women. I think you can be vulnerable with other men. But I just think that sometimes we're fearful to be vulnerable with people because we know our circle ain't right. And again, I tell students all the time, when you spend so much time in you got a circle of friends that don't uplift you, you don't have a circle, you got a cage. And that's straight up from Nipsey. I ain't saying that for my own, but you need to check your circle to see what your circle, if they uplifting you, are they people that you can be vulnerable with, that you can be open with and have those real conversations. We don't want a bunch of yes people around you, because if people can't keep you in check and tell you you wrong, you in the wrong group. And so you need to figure out, how do you get around people who are going to be genuine with you, who are going to celebrate your successes, not giving you the side eye, trying to figure out how do they get in your pocket. And that's, again, that's people. That's not just women, not just across the board. So I think some people are scared because they don't have the right folks around them.
No, that's a good point. I think it's for sure we have to use wisdom. Number one, because, part of being vulnerable but using wisdom of knowing who you can be vulnerable with.
Right.
You bring up a good point, making sure you have people in your corner that you can be vulnerable with. And I think that's a key ingredient as men, making sure we surround ourselves, whether it's our significant other, we're in a relationship, and friends that we can truly be vulnerable with. But what are your thoughts on that, Julian, in regards to, just vulnerability and being a man?
As for me, I think it's a little bit different as a single man. Just being completely honest and transparent, I've tried to be vulnerable in relationships, not right off the bat, but I tried, and it didn't really end well because we're taught that we're supposed to be tough. Like, we ain't supposed to have feelings, and when you say something about it, it's kind of like, oh, you're not your feelings, you're soft, you're sensitive. But so it's kind of, as for me, man, it's hard for me to be vulnerable, and I'm kind of at the point where I don't really want to be vulnerable. You know what I mean? Just being completely transparent, man. As a man who's tried it, and every single time I've tried it, it's just like it didn't really go over well. Right. So it's kind of been one of those situations where I'm just like, all right, I'll just keep it to myself.
Yeah. And that I really think, which is a good perspective, because like I said, my wife and I, we've been married 19 years. Chris, how long have you been married? How many years?
17 years last Saturday, baby.
17 years. Congrats. I knew you had just celebrated your anniversary. I couldn't remember how many years.
Yeah.
And then obviously Julian being single. So there is some like a different perspective. But that's a good point as well, Julian, because that really speaks to finding and identifying. And so whether it be a woman that you're in a relationship with or friends, you basically said that you've set a standard where you're picking and choosing who you can be vulnerable with, because you're right. It's not wise to be vulnerable with everyone, because everyone can't contain or don't have the capacity to contain your vulnerability. And so that's really the wisdom that we need to exercise. But again, I would encourage all of us to continually make sure we have those people. And if we don't have those people in our life, identify and develop those relationships where we can be vulnerable. Because one of the things that I had to learn through trial and error and in marriage, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but just the consequences of not being vulnerable, meaning especially in marriage, your helpmate, but even in just decisions that need to be made, experiences. We're only limited by our knowledge, skills, and our experiences. And just imagine, we live life and we go through so many things. And sometimes when we deny ourselves the ability to be vulnerable with someone, the very people that are in our circle that we can be vulnerable with, but if we choose not to, we're truly robbing ourselves of their knowledge, their experiences, and things that wisdom that they can impart to us. They can help us, make a better financial decision. So I think there's a cost to not being vulnerable. And I had to learn that over time by getting burned or making a mistake. It's like, man, why did I do that? If I had known, and I found out after the fact, people in my circle that I knew and trusted had the information that I needed, but I was too ashamed to be vulnerable. And so I think there's a key component is we have to be aware that there is a cost if we are not vulnerable.
And see, for me, I agree with everything you just said. The difference I would say that I would kind of dovetail off on is that I wasn't like I was ashamed to be vulnerable. For me, I looked at being vulnerable. There's a level of vulnerability and your feelings. And I don't like my feelings hurt. No one likes their feelings hurt. So it wasn't like I was ashamed, but I wasn't going to allow people. I said to myself, I wasn't going to allow people to have that vulnerability, because I wasn't going to allow you to hurt my feelings. And I know, look, I'm not no big astrology dude, but what I have seen is Capricorn seem to be real sensitive around stuff like that. And I know I will, if it hurt my feelings, I oftentimes will close off, because I'm not going to allow you access to that. And so I had to learn to, find those folks for sure that I can be that with, that they're going to be real with me, but not going to use that against me to make me belittle me or to make me feel some kind of way. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't ashamed of it, but I was definitely cautious of who I let have that vulnerability. And now, as I've gotten older, I really pride myself on, like, what you see is what you get. I don't try to. I'm not no dude who's gonna tell you my whole life story, but at the same time, this is me. I don't make no bones about it, and I have tact, so I'm not gonna be disrespectful to people. But again, I think it's important that people see the real you, because when you spend so much time trying to be what you think people want you to be, you never satisfying yourself. You never happy with who you are. I found that.
Right. No,
And,
that's good.
to piggyback, I agree with everything you said, but on the flip side too, as just being transparent, it's hard to be vulnerable and it's just my own thoughts. I'm sure somebody else feels the same way, because one, you don't want people out in your business being nosy, and two, you don't want nobody to take your vulnerability for weakness, like thinking it's sweet. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of hard to just be vulnerable, and then like even somebody close, you know what I'm saying? Like somebody you completely trust, and then in the heat of the moment, they say something that you said months ago and played on your feelings. You're like, man, I let my guard down. I told you this, and now you're throwing this back in my face. So it's hard, man.
Yeah.
It's definitely not easy, and I'm not for sure. I mean, it's definitely not easy, and I'm not saying I've arrived. I know I've grown in that area, but it's still an ongoing process. But this all speaks to that vulnerability communication. It really ties into, number one, wisdom, trying to identify who we can be vulnerable with, because like you both said, not only is there a cost when we're not vulnerable, but the reality of it is when we are vulnerable, we do realize that the very thing that we're giving of ourselves to could cause us to be hurt. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that keeps us closed. Mm-hmm. And so part of it is overcoming, because the reality of it is when you love hard and when you care about someone and you are vulnerable, you're basically saying, I trust you enough to share this with you, knowing though that you could use this against me. So there is a faith walk, meaning this could hurt. Right. And I want to encourage you both and all men, that's where I think we need to pick and choose who we can be vulnerable with. But I think that's really speaks to, growth and maturity, knowing that you love somebody enough that you can be vulnerable, even though it is possible that they could use that information to hurt you.
I think too, in time, that's also the kind of beauty of it too, in being vulnerable. All those things, but you don't let that hinder you from being those things. You recognize, this, and again, I think to me, I got to the point where now it's like, I don't really worry about what you could do with this information, and maybe that's because of the people that I have that I speak with on that kind of level. But there is a very real reality that you could get hurt. But I think we can't spend time too much focus on that area, because I don't think we'll ever really open up to be truly vulnerable if you start thinking too much about what someone's going to do with that information you give.
Correct, which speaks back basically maturity. Part of growing is maturing is not allowing, even though the potential is there, maturity is saying, but I'm not going to allow that to stop me from maturing as a man.
No doubt.
So for sure. Now, tell me your thoughts. Well, my wife, Crystal, she brought up a good point. I would think we've all experienced, and for those who are listening and even tuning in, watching, it is important, especially when you're involved in a relationship, to have that tight relationship so that you can be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Because I would think most of us men, and probably women can say the same thing, we've been burned at times where we've been vulnerable, and then they get upset. Well, look at you. You ain't no good. You over there crying about this, and it really burned the bridge. And so it's important to have, especially if you're dating, if you're married, that support in the relationship that you can be transparent. And so for me, when I was looking at, marriage and contemplating marriage, that was one of the things I couldn't articulate it then, but I was looking for someone that I could be transparent with, and this person wouldn't use it against me or throw it in my face. But that is important.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, women have weaponized men's vulnerability at times, and it's very damaging. And actually being vulnerable is a form of strength, and a lot of people have flexed their strengths so long that you can't get any you really don't get to know that person.
Mhm.
And so when you are vulnerable, you're actually communicating that you want to be known. And a lot of people don't want to be known. You know, they're like, well, no, if they really knew me, whatever the case may be. But the more that you become vulnerable, the stronger you become, and the more you develop a rest about who you are. And then it's good to see where people stand in your life. Like if you release some information and they can't handle it or contain it, they've shown you who they are.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you don't ever give them room to mature and to grow up. Everybody's at a different stage in their life. But if they weren't able to contain your vulnerability, at least you know where they stand in your life.
Yeah.
Right.
And so for our listeners, that's something that you have to sit and reflect on, because, you know, even when we were learning in marriage, and there were times where I knew something was bothering my husband, and I would think as a woman, okay, well, if he tells me this, is he afraid that I'm going to look at him different? And so as a wife or a girlfriend, you're looking on how to bring support to your man. And a lot of times you're shooting blind, and she like, when as soon as you open up, it's like, man, you've given that to me. You've given me the opportunity to come alongside you and to love you in this area and to learn how to support you in this area. And not all women are like that, but when you have a good one, will, you know, and will never do anything to weaponize you. And so I really want to continue to encourage our men to be vulnerable, so you know where people stand in your life. And I'm not saying that like it's easy, but that it is a form of strength. And then your lady will know how to come alongside you and bring support and to love you.
Yeah, cool. So let me segue as we talk about, you know, the month, Men's Health and Wellness Month. You know, major part of that, you know, our mental health. Obviously, you know, we've come out of lockdowns in a lot of states as far as COVID-19, but prior to COVID-19, men's mental health oftentimes has taken a back seat. I want to kind of talk about that a little bit. You know, mental health. You know, how would you all think you're doing, you know, in regards to your mental health? Because I know for me, I was sharing with Crystal this past summer, and it wasn't just due to COVID-19. I think there was some things in our life that took place that caused me to slow down, which was good. And it really had me to spend a lot of time reflecting on my mental health. And I'm just being honest, that was an area for me that I put on the back burner. You know, I was doing everything for everyone else to the point where it was costing me more than it should. I wasn't making enough time for me and my mental health. I mean, time to relax, you know, do things I enjoy. We've shared with our viewers and our listeners, you know, we have 4 kids. So obviously that's always something. Somebody always needs something. My wife, beautiful, you know, been battling a chronic illness. And so I found myself, not because I was forced, but just, you know, sometimes as men, we can just head down and forget about our needs to the point of trying to do everything for everyone else. And so this past summer, a year ago now, was difficult, but it was good because it really helped me to really see the importance of, Dre, like you need to take better care of your mental health. So talk to us a little bit about, you know, mental health and where, you know, what do you do for your mental health and your wellness, and how do you manage that, you know?
Go ahead, Jim.
I say for me, it's been easier now that I moved because now I'm more focused on myself. You know, so growing up with mom, you know, being the baby, it was always, you know, mom straight, is mom good? You know, dad's good, you know. Even when mom came and moved, man, it's me being back home around my friends and our other family, man. It's like, okay, I'm making sure this person's straight, I'm making sure this person's straight. And I really wasn't taking time for myself. And COVID, I think, forced a lot of us to slow down and really, you know, okay, all right, so let me get back on track. And it's crazy because like these people that you're trying to help, which is great to help, but make sure you're not lacking. You know, that's what I was doing. I was lacking. I was trying to help others with me going without certain things. So for me, it was good for me to just sit back and assess my needs and not put myself on the back burner and be like, okay, I'm important too. These people living their own lives, and I got to live mine. So for me, especially with COVID, man, it definitely COVID and the move out here definitely made me focus more on myself.
Yeah, good point. Mm-hmm. What would you say, Chris, in regards to mental health?
Yeah, it's funny because I was trying to think through like how much I wanted to share and how much I'm like. Well, I'm a big proponent of self-care and your own mental health. Anyone who know me know that I love my reflexology massages. If you ain't got one, I'm gonna tell you right now, go get you one. Them things like $30, and boy, it'll change your life. It'll change. I'm real. That'll change your life. This was for me. I really was trying to kind of look at what I enjoyed. Let's talk even pre-COVID. I was kind of like, what do I enjoy? I enjoy my family. I enjoy, like, for me, I find appreciation in little things. So I wake up, I'm like, man, it's a gorgeous sunrise. And I'm like, wow, Lord, thank you. I can see. And so I try to find like the appreciation of those small things that people may overlook or we take for granted. And then, COVID kind of came around and for years and years, my wife followed me when I was coaching, going on whatever. And then, I felt like it was my turn to kind of, she's establishing her career. So I was like, all right, it didn't work with us trying to have the boys at home. We got 2 kids, trying to have the boys at home, her working, me working. Because I found out during that time, I'm working 50 hours a week plus 50 plus hours a week, and I'm working hard, but the people I'm working so hard for are getting the least amount of me. And so I'm going to work, coming home. I go to work before they get up, come home when it's dang near time for bedtime, and not to mention, coming home with the day's pressure on your head. You don't want to hear no message. You're kind of like, look, man, hey, y'all chill out. So they're not even getting me. They physically getting me, but mentally I'm not there. So long story short, what I'm saying, I made the decision to leave my job, with the support of my wife. Let's be clear.
Yeah. And that's a good point. That's a good save right there.
Yeah. Let's be clear, and taking care of the boys, because like I said, for years, my wife did that stuff. And so, this was my turn to kind of do those things. And that's when I really got into some deep reflection, because I was like, man, I found out for me that while I can do it, I'm not a homebody kind of dude. But I really appreciated just being able to, look at the small things and helping them with homework. I also found out too, don't get it twisted. That little 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade homework, that stuff ain't easy when you old, boy. I'm telling you, that stuff get hard. That Common Core, I don't know what that mess is, but it get hard. So I had to reteach myself some of these things. But I think it's important to really, I made a point to make sure that, all right, y'all, I'm gonna step out for a minute, even if it was just me going on a walk. I wanted to walk around the neighborhood just to clear my head and just look at the things that I could appreciate without just a moment for my own headspace.
Yeah. No, and this all really, because it still goes, it ties into mental health and men's health and wellness, but it's all surrounded around communication. Because, and the reason why I say that, because I agree, meaning I love outdoors and going for walks. I think for me, my mental health took a backseat just because I was overloaded in my time constraints, and it was no one forcing me to do anything, but I was taking on more than I should have. And so I had to make some adjustments. We were, working full time, obviously being a husband, father of 4, doing a lot of great things in ministry, but it was a lot of my time. And so one of the shifts we made was still ministry, but transitioning out of a traditional type ministry where it gives me more freedom and more time to slow down. Because I found myself years ago going from one task to the next, or not able to enjoy my time away because I'm thinking about what else I got to get done. Because my time was, it felt like every moment was accounted for, so that I couldn't even enjoy things. And so I would encourage, us, our listeners and viewers, mental health, as we celebrate and really talk about, Men's Health and Wellness Month, it is absolutely important to take time for you. And I don't mean like run hard 6 months and then take a few days or a week vacation, meaning build it into your life where you are consistently getting refreshed, consistently doing things that you enjoy. Because we said some years ago, at the end of the day, it don't matter if we do everything for everyone else and then we don't have anything to show for it, or we haven't enjoyed our life. And so if you as a man or, find yourself buried on the weight of responsibilities and doing everything for everyone else to the point where you're neglecting yourself, I would encourage you, make those adjustments because you owe it to yourself and your loved ones to be available and to be present. Mental health is huge.
I think I want to add to that too, Drake, because I think for me, what I got really good at, to be honest with you, is setting boundaries. And again, when you set boundaries, be honest with you, it's kind of scary because you're like, man, how so and so or who? And I got to the point where it's like I read a quote somewhere that it cut right through me. And it said the only people who are bothered by the boundaries you set are the ones who took advantage of you not having any at all. And I was like, man, that right there for me, it was like. And when you find out you set boundaries, like for me, there was some definites that I was not going to miss. And if it was stuff for the kids and stuff for my wife, like those things, I'm like, okay, no, I don't care what it is. I'm not going to miss those things. Right. Because the work is going to be there. It's going to be there. But it's important to really focus on setting those boundaries, not only for yourself, but just so people understand exactly where you stand.
Right. No, that's a very good point. Boundaries, huge, key. No, that for sure. Julie, as a younger man, because I'm still young now. I got some gray, so the brother's still in the prime. But share with us a little bit about your age and mental health and kind of what are some things that you do to address your mental health needs and the importance of it. Just talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, as a younger man, 28 years old, for me, it's not trying to follow the stigma because, man, you tell certain people I need some help. What's wrong with you? Like, it's not really accepted, especially in our community. You know what I mean? It's not really something that we talk about or we always neglect it. So it's kind of one of those things that, like y'all said earlier, you have to find people who you can be vulnerable with and tell people these things. But for me, things I do, like Chris said, I have to sit back and reflect on things I like to do and, and set boundaries, like cut my phone off or technology, just shut it off, man, and focus on myself, whether it's praying, meditating, reading the Bible, you know what I mean? It's several things, lifting weights. I mean, it could be anything, you know what I'm saying? For me, that's just things I focus on, gym, sports, and it's hard, man, because not having a significant other to just be able to talk to about these things, because I'm sure as Chris and Dre, I'm sure y'all both experience where your wives be like, okay, something ain't right, go do this. Dre, go fishing. Chris, go to the gym, like something, you know what I mean? So not having, because sometimes we don't see it ourselves, you know what I mean? Like we get so used to living and going on, sometimes it takes somebody else to see it for us. So, for me, I can kind of feel it when I'm getting overwhelmed. And, we all have thoughts, not necessarily crazy thoughts, but we have some thoughts and be like, okay, let me take a step back. Let me reevaluate some things. So that's how I deal with it.
No, that's good because that also, again, because sometimes when we talk about significant others, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be someone that we're in a romantic relationship. Obviously, as married men, and my wife, because I love the outdoors. I love the water. I love fishing. She's quick to say, you need to go fishing. You need to do some kind. But, because, my wife, man, she be You know, she be getting on my nerves sometimes, and so I need my space. But no, but on a serious note, she does a great job of really advocating for me as well when she notices, because sometimes my head is down, I'm in the trenches, I got to get this done, and so she does a great job. Thank you, girl. I love you. She does a great job of supporting me and bringing it to my attention. Hey, you need to slow down. You need to, you know, get out and do things you enjoy. But I think even for you, Julian, just, you know, whatever those close friends you have as well, making sure that as a single man, that you're doing things with them for fun and enjoyment to kind of decompress. Because the weight of the world, whether it be finances, career goals, work, future, you know, all of those things. I mean, that is real pressures that we all feel, every woman and man. And then as men, you know, we do feel a big portion of the weight of providing. And so it is important for our quality of life to be able to, you know, take time out and, you know, make sure our mental health is intact. And Julian, you alluded to, I think it's important, you know, whether someone feels they need counseling, there's nothing wrong with seeing a therapist, a counselor, if that's what you need, a life coach. My wife and I are life coaches. You know, we've been actually life coaches for some time now, and we work with quite a few other counselors as well. And so I think it's important to have people in your network or in your circle to talk to, because if we only talk to people that we know, sometimes we're limited by the knowledge within that group. And sometimes, not always the case, but sometimes we need someone with a fresh perspective, someone that's not in our immediate circle. And so I would encourage our viewers, our listeners, you know, don't let anyone stop you from getting the support and help you need to talk through some things. This is a part of iron sharpening iron, brothers coming together, being vulnerable, talking, because again, I plan on living a long, healthy life. I want you all to live a long, healthy life, and it's important.
I think Dre too, man. You know, the one thing that, at least for me, there's not readily that I mean, I know I can go online and look all that stuff. There's not readily like this database where, like, if I need mental health, who do I talk to? I don't know. I don't even know how to start that conversation. So it's like, not only do I not know how to start that conversation for your viewers and everybody out there, I think that sometimes it's like there's such a stigma. If I tell somebody, I won't tell nobody I'm doing this. And so I would strongly, I've been in higher education for 20 years. And I just strongly I'm an advocate so much for mental health concerns that I tell everybody, it's like, don't you spending all this time focused on these pieces that don't matter. And what I mean by that is, like, if anyone who has questions about you talking to somebody or just sharing that conversation with somebody, they don't matter. You need to focus on how do you get the help that you need. Sometimes just get it out your head. Sometimes just have a conversation with somebody. It ain't got to be nothing in depth if you don't want to be that, but sometimes you could just get some ideas out of your head. So I think what I'm getting at is, I think that sometimes people they don't know how to start that step of where do I start? I know I want to talk to somebody. I don't even know where to go.
That's a very good point. I mean, because the important thing is people having that outlet and speaking to someone versus not saying anything for fear of what people are going to say.
Right.
That is the priority, which speaks to the importance of boundaries. Like, look, hold on. My health is more important than your opinion.
Right. Well, and to chime in also, I think a lot of times it's just not modeled. If it wasn't modeled for you from a parent, and now you've navigated through life, you're not the same person you were as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult. You've had different experience occur. And so when it wasn't modeled for you, you're literally trying to figure out, okay, I'm hurting or I'm heavy with something and I need to get it out.
And when it's not something that you've seen or practiced because it wasn't part of your upbringing, it does feel scary.
Right.
You know, so truly being able to plow through fear, because fear is an illusion. A lot of times what fear puts an emphasis on is what we believe to be our limitations. That's why fear is like, you know, but fear can also be an ally, because it can also shed light on like, hold on, that's not true.
Right. No.
You know, and so then, you know, helping you to take the initiative to identify that 1 to 2 people that you can truly be open with, because you know they got your back.
And I think too, I don't know if y'all have the capacity to do this. I was trying to look up real quick as we were talking, but if y'all have the capacity or ability to maybe throw in a number or something at the end of this to have, so people can just sort of know where to reach out to if there is a like to start a conversation. You know, I know they have all these numbers and different things like that, but you know, sometimes you need to, like you said, an outsider's perspective, just to listen, just to be that sounding board, not necessarily give you any advice, but just to be that sounding board for you.
That's probably easier.
Yeah.
Honestly, because they're not going to judge you. They don't really know you. That's what they're trained to do. So it might even be a level of comfort because, okay, this person don't know me. They ain't going to run and tell my business, you know. So it might be a level of comfort.
No, that's a very good point. You know, and we always share at the opening and even at the closing of our podcast, you know, our contact information, because it's not just about us. We have a host of people in a network, other life coaches, other counselors, mental health therapists that we can share with people. Because at the end of the day, that's the beauty about making sure that you get the help and support you need to be successful, because it's so important. And so, yeah, we'll definitely make that more available. So listen, I want to kind of, go ahead. Well, you had a
just real quick, because since you said something that made me think that, like, man, you know, about the modeling piece. And I'm going to jump on this right quick because I love it, but I hate it at the same time. Little sister Naomi Osaka is doing it right now. She is modeling for people that you need to take care of yourself and not worry about. I think she dropped out of Wimbledon today, and I thought it was just a beautiful thing because she is taking care of herself and not worried about that money, not worried about what people think. I think that's just phenomenal to see her use her platform in such a way. And I don't know if she even set out to do that. But the idea that she's doing that, I just want to applaud her and support her because it's just phenomenal. She's focused on herself and setting those boundaries.
No, I think I agree. I think at the end of the day, it's her life, and you have to. If you don't take care of yourself first, it's going to be hard for you to take care of anyone else.
Right.
So she set that boundary, and I fully support her and any other woman or man that sets boundaries, whether or not people like it. This is a boundary she set. She felt that she needed to do. So more power to her. So, hey, listen, as we kind of wrap this up, I want to stress, you know, this is going to be the first of many discussions, brothers. I definitely appreciate you, you know, Tom, participating. It is so important to really be aware of our health needs as men. And as we celebrate this month, Men Health and Wellness Month, it's important to keep that not just for this month, but live a lifestyle where our health and our needs are a priority. Our wellness is a priority because we do carry a lot of weight on our shoulders. So I commend both of you for being solid guys. I'm not just saying that because you know you're my brothers, but I appreciate you, you know, being solid guys, working hard, and looking to make an impact. And so it's been real. To our listeners, viewers, babe, tell them where they can check us out at.
You can check us out on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Podcasts, most of the podcast outlet. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Mad love to my brother Chris and Julian and to my boo. And we hope you guys will come back and do some more episodes with us. Y'all down?
Y'all on all the other platforms, y'all big time. I'm definitely coming back. Yo, I appreciate that.
No, and for sure, we're going to share because on our website, Love Your Life.
Loveyourlife.com, LOVEURLIFE.com. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, so because we do have a host of resources that we share with other people. So please reach us, contact us if you want some referral information. At the end of the day, your life matters. So we want everyone to be healthy as they can. So it's been real. We love you guys. Peace. We'll be tuning in later. God bless. All right. Peace.
Shout to the city that raised me. Shout to the people that made me. I'm from the 80s. I don't think mumbling wavy. I grew up black on a Jay-Z. Maybe I'm crazy. I ain't been wondering lately. Feel like it's there for the taking. Feel like I'm good with the changes. Know who I am. And that's the most dangerous state.